Okay, I have a confession for you guys. So even I was intimidated by making homemade gluten-free English muffins. And I'm gonna tell you, I was wrong. Apparently I wasn't the only one that thought that, because that is the #1 comment I get on this recipe is I cannot believe how easy they are to make and how good they turn out. So today I'm going to take you through the steps. There's some steps, but none of them are hard. And I'm gonna show you the one simple trick to get that nice crusty exterior, soft fluffy inside, full of nooks and crannies, because you have to say nooks and crannies when you're talking about English muffins. It's the law. So let's do it. Okay, so before we start mixing together the dough, I just have 2 baking sheets and I have some gluten-free cornmeal, and I'm just gonna sprinkle it over the baking sheets, about 2 tablespoons. And once your dough is together, it's gonna go on these baking sheets and rise, because you have to have cornmeal on English muffins. It's like the essential bottom part of it. Okay, so the easiest part of the recipe is making the dough, and actually it's gluten-free English muffins are way easier than traditional ones. You just dump it in, mix, you don't have to rise them twice, there's no kneading, it's really easy. So I have 3.5 cups of gluten-free flour. I'm using Cup4Cup, that's what I like to use. And this is 516 grams. And I have 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar, that's 26 grams. I have 1¼ teaspoons of baking powder, and then 1½ teaspoons of salt. I just feel like gluten-free flour does not have a lot of flavor to it, so I go a little bit heavier on the salt. And then for the yeast, I buy my yeast in bulk, and then I just put it in a jar and keep it in my fridge. And I have this nifty little yeast spoon, which equivalates to a package of yeast. So it's 2¼ teaspoons of instant yeast. And if you notice, I have yeast, and then I also have baking powder, which I do for gluten-free breads because it helps the rise. I don't feel like yeast gets it there enough on its own. And for English muffins, we cook them over the stove first, so you need that short initial rise with the baking powder. And last, for the dry ingredients, I have 3 tablespoons of psyllium husk powder. Psyllium husk powder is what you add to help the gluten-free dough become elastic and easier to shape. Otherwise, it's gonna be very frustrating to work with. I recommend a specific psyllium husk, because if you just buy any psyllium husk online, what will happen is you'll probably more than likely get a very dark psyllium husk, and when you make the English muffins, they will be purple. And you will email me and you'll be like, everything was good, but my English muffins are purple. It's because of the psyllium husk. I have 2 brands that I recommend that are light enough for gluten-free baked goods, and I'll link to those below. So for the liquid ingredients, I have 1 cup of water and then 1 cup of milk. You could use dairy-free milk too. And then this, I just heat this in the microwave for about a minute until it comes to about 100 to 110 degrees. Oh, buddy. And then I have 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar, and that just helps open up the crumb. And then 2 tablespoons of melted and cooled butter, which is 28 grams. I like butter because it adds a little bit more flavor than oil, but you can use dairy-free butter or oil too. And then 2 large eggs. And your eggs should be at room temp. And then that's it. We're just gonna combine the dough. I'm gonna mix it all together first on low speed, and then once it's together, then I mix it for about 4 minutes. And that's kind of like how we knead gluten-free dough. It just has to mix a little bit longer. Okay, so we have our dough, and it'll be a pretty stiff dough. It's also a little bit sticky, which is fine. I find that the stickier gluten-free dough is, the better it turns out. You want it on a little the stickier side. We need to divide this up into, it makes 10 English muffins. So to do that easily, I'm gonna take my dough and I'm just gonna cut it down in half. And then I should mention too, I just have a silicone baking mat, and then it's greased. And so I can use this, I could grease my hands with it so nothing is sticking. I'm gonna take each of these, I'm gonna divide them up into 5 equal balls. And if you wanna be really precise about it too, you can use a food scale and measure these, and they should be about 4 ounces each. Now that we have 10 equal balls, we need to shape them into smooth balls. Now here's the thing, with gluten-free, it's less forgiving when it rises. So if you have any little cracks like this, they will, as it rises, it'll just expand out, which isn't bad. It's not gonna do anything to the taste of it. It just doesn't look as good. So you want to get this as smooth as possible and kind of pinch close any cracks. So your ball will look more like this. Hey, real quick, if you have been stress Googling gluten-free recipes, I made these for you. They are your new kitchen best friend. No gluten-free drama for the whole family. We all just sit down and eat one meal with real, recognizable ingredients you could pick up at your local grocery store. Everything is simple, easy, and totally doable. Life is too short for bad gluten-free food. I have you covered. I have all the links in the description below. Okay, all our balls are as smooth as possible. So then I have my baking sheets that I prepared, and I'm just gonna put 5 on each of them, just evenly spaced apart. Okay, and then the last thing before you let it rise is you have to flatten these down, because I've made this mistake before. You want your English muffins to look like English muffins, not like rolls. So you want to flatten them down, and if anything comes apart, you could kind of pinch it back together. And you want to be kind of aggressive about how much you flatten these. You're looking for about 3/4 of an inch, because they're gonna rise right now, and then when we put them on our skillet, they're gonna rise again when we start cooking them with the baking powder. And then we do the last step where we transfer into the oven, they'll rise again. So you can go pretty flat right now. And then sprinkle more cornmeal on the top. And then I'm just gonna loosely cover with plastic wrap, and these are gonna set aside to rise for about 30 to 40 minutes. So they've risen, I had them rising about 40 minutes. And what you're looking for, they should 1.25 inches to about 1.5 inches tall at this point. So I have my skillet heating over medium heat. Then you want another baking sheet lined with parchment paper. All of your English muffins will fit on this one sheet. On your skillet, just add about a teaspoon of oil. I'm going to take a dry paper towel and kind of wipe most of this off, so you just have like a sheen of oil in it. So add about 3 to 4 English muffins at a time. So what we're doing is we are just going to cook this just 1.5 minutes on each side to set the crust of the English muffin, so you get that nice chewy exterior. But then we're gonna move it to the baking sheet and finish baking it. And the reason why I like to do this is because I don't wanna babysit these at the stove. Gluten-free baked goods take a longer time to bake, to get that moisture off so it's not gummy. And I don't want to cook all of these over the heat and make sure the heat's consistent the whole time. So instead, we're just gonna partially bake them here and then finish them in a 350 oven. So if you're cooking them and they become too high, because remember they're gonna get higher in the oven, you can take your spatula and press them down slightly just to keep the thickness that you'd like of your English muffin. So you're looking for it to be browned on each side, and then you just transfer it over to your baking sheet. So before you cook the next batch, I like to wipe out this cornmeal, because as it cooks, it's going to get burnt, and then that's gonna transfer over to your English muffins. So just kind of give it a good wipe between each batch, and then you can reapply the oil to it. So these go in a 350 oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. I mean, there is no difference between these English muffins and the ones at your grocery store, or better yet, homemade ones. They're soft, they're crusty, they got the nooks and crannies, they are amazing. Yum, 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 yum. Oh my gosh. Just like regular English muffins, they're best the day they're made, but if not, then wrap them up, put them in your freezer, toast them, make a breakfast sandwich. You can do it all with this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.